PrymalChaos. Hey guys, PrymalChaos here, welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to be doing something that I haven't done before as far as I can remember on the channel, and that's look at beatboxing. So obviously this channel started out as more of a metal channel, and it slowly evolved into covering just about everything. And one of the things I've been doing sort of in the last sort of 12 months, I suppose, has been looking into a fair amount of a cappella with bands like Pentatonics, Voice Play, artists like that anyway. And with all of those groups comes an element of beatboxing. I'm not going to say that it's the same thing, but that said, every one of these bands has what they refer to as a beatboxer providing the rhythm underneath all the choral harmony and stuff like that. I'm not inexperienced with beatboxing, but I'm experienced enough to understand that what those beatboxers do in the context of those acts is very different to what a solo beatboxer does, or somebody who works within a group of specifically beatboxing artists, right? So this one came across my desk by way of a friend's recommendation. They said, check this out. It's beatboxing. You're going to love it. And, you know, I thought, well, I mean, I haven't covered that really, not in its purest form. So this will be interesting. I've got no idea what this is. Begin by Letting Go. I think it's a cover by Etherwood. And I'm not familiar with the song, so that won't color my interpretation of what the artist is doing. I believe it's two guys. I saw in the thumbnail. So I'll jump right into it. Before I do, I just want to say this video today is brought to you in part by Enchroma. Enchroma make glasses for colorblind people like myself. So if you or anyone you know might be colorblind, just click the link in my description. It'll take you to their website where you can get a free eye test, find out if you have a deficiency, if so, what kind, and while you're there, you can pick up a pair of glasses that will allow you to see the world a little bit more like everyone else does. I really love mine. I wear mine every day. Anyway, let's jump right into the reaction. Begin by Letting Go, covered by Jairo? I don't know. We'll see. Let me know in the comments. Also, before I jump in, I just want to say I'm the newbie here, right? So I'm the guy who doesn't really understand this genre. So any help you can give me in the comments or anything that I might have missed, for example, or if you have any sort of ideas of where to start listening to hear some really world-class beatboxing. So any tips you can give me on where to look and where to find some amazing artists, let me know. I'm really curious. All right, so let's jump right in. Begin by Letting Go by Jairo.
These words are disappearing. I don't seem to get larger and larger.
Okay, this is way more melodic than I thought it would be.
Oh. Become distance spirit, flowing with the flow. I still sitting here, begin by letting.
Oh wow!
Begin by letting.
What is that? Wow, that's really interesting. Oh my God. So first thing I just wanted to point out is it seems like they're putting, and I want to get this out of the way to begin with, right? There's some studio production going on in this recording, and I am in 0% judgmental about that. That's just the way the nature of recording goes. When you are performing something live, if these guys were in a club with microphones doing this piece, it would be absolutely stellar, right? But I can see it seems like what they're doing on specific snare hits and things like that, they're adding a little bit of like a church reverb or something to give that sort of like the snare rather than have like a sort of thing. And at first you might think, oh, they're doing that by voice, but you can actually see it physically. There's like, he's making the sound, but there's a little bit of grease rubbed on it sort of in post. Having said that, the way I understand it, Everybody does that, right? So I've talked about this in videos with pentatonics and things like that. There's often a little bit of things going on. And again, this is the same thing with this whole argument about auto-tune. Anybody who's ever used auto-tune knows that you can't take a talentless vocal and use auto-tune to suddenly make it a world-class vocal. It doesn't work that way. Every major artist that you listen to, with the exception of really purely dyed-in-the-wool indie artists that absolutely refuse to do anything to their sound, everybody does post-production stuff. The second you put a microphone in front of somebody's face, it's no longer authentic, right? It's the same with anything, using digital drums or whatever. People have stances on it, you know, but I think by and large, people who work in the industry know that there's always going to be a certain amount of production done in the studio, because a live experience, you standing in a room with these guys performing this versus a very clinical and clean recording of the same thing, often doesn't have the same impact. And so what you do is you put these tiny little embellishments in there to take it to the next level and make it feel as grandiose as it would if they were doing it live, right? So that out of the way, I don't want to talk about that anymore. These guys have single-handedly changed my opinion on beatboxing to a degree, because I mean, obviously I'm in awe of anybody who can do these particular complex arrangements and articulations and mimicry with their voice, right? There's no denying that is absolute supreme talent. But for me, what I've always noticed, and again, this is probably very old school thinking, right? I'm sure the genre has evolved a lot since I heard things and stuff growing up, or throughout time I've heard things. To me, at least in my limited experience, beatboxers tend to seem more like a sampler than a musician. And what I mean by that is they use their incredible ability to mimic the sounds, the rhythms. Usually it's of a particular style, like they might be a hip hop sort of based guy, or they might be EDM, doing like dance club music sort of beatboxing, things like that. And they have this ability to not only mimic the timbre of a specific instrument, but also a collection of instruments. Like you might be able, like anybody can do a bass guitar, right? Some people can do it sounding a lot more like a specific bass guitar, right? But can you do a bass guitar and a synth layer at the same time with a rhythm track going underneath it? That's mind-boggling, right? Everybody can agree with that. But one thing that's always struck me is when I've listened to beatboxers, they never felt like musicians. They always felt like almost like a tape sampler, and, you know, being extremely creative, chopping up beats and doing things that you would do in a computer if you were a beat maker, for example, right? But I always felt like there was a lack of understanding of the original source material as far as, like, say, music theory, things like intonation and pitch and things like that. They do those things because that's how it sounds in the reference material that they're mimicking. But a lot of times I feel like there's not a fundamental understanding of what they're reproducing. And again, there's no problem with that. A vast chunk of guitar players don't know what chords they're playing. And I'm talking about world-class guitar players, right? It doesn't matter. Theory doesn't matter. But to me, I always put it in that basket of, okay, they're doing a version of like a soundscape, right? Rather than they're creating a soundscape. These guys, I have absolutely not a shadow of a doubt that they understand what they're reproducing. Their intonation, their pitch, their timbre of everything they're doing in the melodic parts, which to me, they're so perfectly on point and perfectly intonated, and they're sung or performed from an understanding of how to sit in that pocket and things like that. And that's, to me, really super interesting. These guys, I feel like if I had to just throw it against the wall and see if it sticks, I feel like they're probably trained musicians who beatbox. I'm probably way off base, but that's my gut instinct with these guys, because they just get it. They get it too well, right? That said, this brings up another point of question. Where does the line end between something like what Pentatonics does? If Pentatonics was two people, right? Where does the line get drawn between a cappella and beatboxing? Is it that they're both a cappella like disciplines? I mean, I guess they are, right? But how do you categorize this? Because for the first, I don't know, like 8 bars or whatever of this, I was going, no, this is just a cappella. Until, to me, the distinction comes in when, first of all, they both start doing beatboxing sort of I don't want to use the word tricks because it sounds cheap. You know what I mean? They're stylistically using beatboxing elements. That's the way to say it. Or is it the choice of the production, like how they're producing the track? Is it different? I really don't know. But for whatever reason, for me, as much as this is incredibly melodic and rich and melodic, like it's harmonic, right? As much as it is, it still to me falls into the camp of beatboxing. But it's confusing because beatboxing is like, anytime there's melodic stuff in beatboxing, to me, I always felt like it was, again, like a sample layer as opposed to a bass player playing like the low notes and things like that. And this feels very much like that. If at the very least, this has really made me call into question everything I understand or everything I thought I understood about this genre. The other thing that I think deserves attention also is we've all heard beatboxers doing things where they're producing 1 million notes a second and they're doing all of these different moving synth lines over a drum beat with a separate bass line somehow. They're articulating 3 musical concepts at the same time, right? To somebody who doesn't do that, it defies explanation. It just doesn't seem real. Whereas these guys are doing a much more simplistic arrangement in that it's a slow jam, right? But what's interesting about that is there's nowhere to hide. Sometimes, I heard a drummer talking the other day, they made a video where they were explaining that what the average person thinks is difficult, and they play this incredibly articulate drum solo with fills of incredibly fast rhythms and notes and things like that. And then they cut and said what is actually hard, and they played a straight groove in the pocket, like a 4/4 beat with hardly any embellishments or ghost notes or anything like that. Just simple, right? Whatever it was, simple, but there's nowhere to hide. A lot of times we hide lack of technique and lack of timing and things like that with speed and chaos, right? And so when you take something, you strip it right back to nothing, you have to be perfect. You have to be perfectly in time. You have to be perfectly articulated. You have to have perfect intonation, because everything that's a little bit off is going to stand out that much more because it's not hiding in amongst the clutter, right? And so that's something to really be admired about this, is that it's not the most intense, incredible beatboxing thing you've ever seen, right? I wanted to just jump into some of these insane vocal articulations because
I still sit here, begin by that dish.
to me, like that little run there is, I can't even begin to understand what that is. So I'm going to look into that a little bit in a second. But the delay that has it's got like the feedback on it is turned to a certain point, so it gradually decays after 3 or 4 sort of repetitions, right? But what's interesting is they're both making that sound, and they're both perfectly in sync with the dynamics. You can hear it sort of, slowly gets. I can't even do it outside of the content. And again, my voice is fried right now, but even if I could sing great, it's like the way that they just beautifully fall off on those repetitions. It makes it sound so authentic. It sounds like a literal electronic device is producing that delay, right? And then there's this. Which again sounds fake, right? And that's the beauty of a lot of beatboxing, is the faker it sounds, the more it sounds like a machine or it's been programmed, the more talent is required to produce that sound, right? And at first I was thinking, is that a scale run he's doing? Is he like, ooh, but when a human being sings like that, typically there's some sort of a portamento sort of connection between the notes, where it'd be like, ooh, you'll feel it slide up. And you can sing staccato, like, ooh, 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 whatever. Again, don't listen to my singing right now. But there's no chop between them. It's just like, it sounds like a monophonic synthesizer, which means, like, if I play a piano and I play other notes, it's polyphonic, right? I can just keep playing notes over the top and it'll keep going. Some synthesizers will be 16 note polyphonic, which means you can hold up to 16 notes or play back in a sequence up to 16 notes before the first note disappears to make way for the 16th note or 17th note or whatever, right? But a monophonic synth, which is often used in bass lines and stuff like that in dance music, means that if you play a note, I don't have any examples I can just bring up, but if I play, say, a C and then I play an E, the E will overtake the C so that it can't, like it'll only reproduce one note at a time. So rather than going and both notes are harmonizing, it'll go every time. It'll switch between the notes. And so you can have like, but see, even when I play it like that, it sounds like 4 staccato notes. It doesn't sound like what he's doing because it's so perfectly aligned. One note ends, the next one begins immediately. It sounds artificial. And I think he's not doing it as a scale run vocally. I think that he's helping those note transitions clip over each other using mouth articulations. So like you can see it if you watch his mouth, he's changing a vowel sound shape for each one of those notes. Now watch right about here. It's almost like he's saying a word, but he's saying it in this rounded synth tone that doesn't have any sort of hard consonant sort of sounds to it. What is that vinyl sizzle in there? Like it doesn't need to be there, but when it's in there, it sounds so authentic. It just sounds like these are samples taken from a record. Oh my God. And I love that he's like, and both of them are doing this. They accentuate what they're doing with physicality. Like, I can't do it now. Oh, that's so great. What is that low note, by the way? See, again, it's happening there too. It sounds monophonic again. And I think he's more, he's using like tongue, like he's clicking his tongue between the notes to sort of bounce between them. I don't know. I can't make it happen. Again, this isn't something I do. This is something he does. Yep. I mean, that again, the thing that is interesting is they're emulating, they're taking like a song, and again, I don't know what the original song sounds like, but let's just say it sounds pretty natural. They're taking it and they're doing to it what somebody would do if they were doing like a remix. And so a lot of these sounds you're hearing sound like reversed samples, but then run through a filter where they're tweaking the knobs on, like a classic synth or something, or a vocoder, to make, different clipping and, cutting. I don't know what the actual terms are. But, you can have like gated sort of rhythms in things, and you can adjust how much of the signal goes through from like, if you understand how like classic synths and stuff work, usually you've got like attack, sustain. Man, it's been a minute since I had my hands on a synth, but you can adjust how quickly a note comes in, so it can either be like bop straight in or whoop like that, and then you've got sustain, how long the note will sustain for while you hold it, and then you've got like how quickly it decays. And so you can make things sound very robotic and staccato, or you can make them very slow and lush and moving and flowing. And then you can sequence a lot of that using, different effects and stuff like that, which will chop and cut up things to a rhythm, like with gates, which will open and close at specific times. And so then that's where you get things like this, where you've got that, where that articulation is the same melody, but it sounds different too. And again, how he's up to the note, he's sliding certain notes and then he's staccatoing notes. And then to sort of give a variation, we're going to tweak the knobs a little bit and start, moving things around. Yeah, it's after this. What does that sound? It's like, it's almost getting to the point of everyone throws around like Tuvan throat singing for just about everything, but it's like he's sort of doing like a low, and then he's bringing in some higher fundamental frequency, harmonic frequencies with the vibration of the tongue against the teeth to give it sort of that distorted tone. I don't know. I really don't know. Dude, they're so good. They are so good. Oh, man. I'd love to hear more of these guys' stuff, to be honest, because I want to know exactly what it is that they do. If this is a standout performance or if they typically stick to this kind of lo-fi kind of energy. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I want to know more. I don't think I've got too much to add, really. I think that what I love most about modernity, where the world is right now and how the internet's working. The internet, it's really easy to look at it and go, man, it's destroying the world, and it's just it's sort of a vehicle for just moving trash around, right? But at the same time, I feel like the world is more connected creatively than it's ever been. And so the thing, I talk on this channel a lot about how I feel like a lot of times genre stifles creativity because people they aspire to work within a genre rather than to blast through the ceiling of the genre and come up with something new. Except for, the odd key act that always typically finds success because people have never heard anything like what they do. But I feel like the blurring of genres has a lot to do with people being able to find influence from all over the world now. And so rather than you just doing what you do locally in your scene, you can be influenced by your scene plus a million other scenes. And you can sort of check out something some amazing kid in another country like South Korea or something does, or Japan, or, America, or Australia might have something going on. It rarely does, to be honest. And I say that as someone who loves their country. But it's, whatever the case may be, you can become influenced. And what that means is people get to a higher plane of creativity faster than they would because they're not just working within their local area or their local scene. They now have the entire world from which to draw from. If you see a video where some kid's doing something you've never heard before and you go, I'm going to learn how to do that. And then you add that to your shtick. And then suddenly you're doing that as well with this and that. And then some other kid from around the world is watching you do that. And now that's the status quo. It's all been elevated by a combination of people who don't even know each other. And then some kid comes in who's a savant who figures out all of that stuff and then takes that to another level. And then he's influencing someone else. And this has gone on since the dawn of time, but I feel like now it's global as opposed to the guys in your city, doing it, what it is that they do. I feel like me coming into this video and saying, well, here's what I think about beatboxing. I don't have a big understanding of it, but it always kind of feels a little bit sort of mimicry as opposed to a musical genre, right? And now I know that that's not true. It's absolutely not true. These guys are absolutely musical. And I'm sure that there's an abundance of other beatboxers who are and have always been. Oh man, this was absolutely beautiful. It was classic. That's the best way to describe it, because while these guys have I'd imagine, an incredible tapestry of ability and talent and can do almost anything with their voices, I've no doubt. They chose to do a slow jam and they very tastefully embellished it in a way that is, you know, it never feels like too much. It always feels like what they're doing is in service of the version of the song that they're doing. It's not, oh, you know, I'm going to show them how crazy I can do 16th notes while doing this, or, you know, whatever. It's just, it's a jam. And it sounds like this is the way the song is meant to be, as opposed to, boy, I wish they didn't really mess with it this much. And that's that's the sign of talent and taste. And that's about the highest praise I can give these guys. They're talented and they're also tasteful. So yeah, man, that was cool. Anyway, I've waffled on way too long. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you do want to support the channel more, if you feel like it brightened your day at all, feel free to support me just by buying me a coffee. I'll leave a link in the description. Also, don't forget to check out my merch site. The merch is generally related to my artwork, which I do aside from production and music and all that sort of stuff. So check it out. I got some cool stuff over there. I got a whole bunch of new hoodies and stuff as well, which are all over print hoodies and stuff. Thanks again, guys. Stay primal. I'll catch you in the next one.